Well, hello there. My name is Calvin Nixon, upcoming senior at Marquette University. Go Marquette! And I'm just here today to voice my opinion on undocumented immigration, and I have a strong interest in social philosophy. And I took a class in the philosophy of law this past semester, and I just wanted to bring you, the audience, my opinions and views on the issue. So basically, I, I contend that America's language game uh, marginalizes and dehumanizes the very being of undocumented immigrants in such a way that, in part, that language directly influences the construction of law, in which sadly dishonestly reflects the popular opinion of the masses. So basically, in layman's terms, popular opinion influences law. And so, as I researched, um, the International Relations and Security Network, I found that the majority of Americans had a negative sentiment towards undocumented immigrants, in such a way that they believe that they have a negative impact on the economy and the social, and they have the social impact and negative impact on the mores of our society, and they were deemed as job stealers, and which we all know that's not true. Um, that furthermore, that being said, I furthermore believe that the terms, derogatory terms such as alien and illegal should be eradicated from our public discourse, because it just negatively impacts the mind of the individual. And I am entertained by the questions of, like, where does this attitude come about or originate, and in what way does it influence law, and is there a hope for the future? And I believe there is, so, in which I will later detail later in this video. But first of all, where does this attitude come from? I coined the phrase the etymological undoing, which I mean by that, I mean that I hold that language has a active and dynamic character, which that can't be dismissed. It can be used positively and it can be used negatively. And in this case, when we denote undocumented immigrants as aliens and immigrants, we are therefore using it in a negative sense, and therefore I argue that it eradicates the human personality, the human individuality, of the person. And this etymological undoing has a historical basis. At Hiroshima Motomura, he's a professor at UCLA, and he he holds that this thinking comes from a brutish categorical framework in which he sees Americans as narrow-minded and straightforward, and we only think of undocumented immigrants, and when we think undocumented immigrants, we think of unlawful presence, that they shouldn't be here. And this leads to a sentiment where they shouldn't be here. It can be misinterpreted into a false sense of justice, and we can see where I'm going with this and how popular opinion impacts law in such a way. And Motomura holds that the concepts of race has not been neutral in the past, and according to history. It has taken a negative turn, and that turn has impacted the way we see it today. And I argue that it is twofold. It's not only historical, but it's also a legal one. This undoing, this character of the undoing. and which I say when is a legal one. I believe, it's among society. It is apparent, because there was one New York Times columnist, that asserted that, he quoted, he said, um, what he quoted, what part of illegal do you not understand? And that is just a pure example of the sort of undoing language, and pejorative language that I am talking about. And the university professor, at California Merced, Tanya Golash Boaz, as I recall, she says that, when we use this sort of language, and I'm paraphrasing, um, she says, if we continue to use this sort of language of illegal or alien, we are clearly making our positions clear on this debate, on this immigration debate, and I totally believe that. This language must be eradicated from the American language game, per se, and I believe that if reform is not made, towards immigration, and its policies, that will continue to it will continue to mirror the language of the undoing. And back to my point, and how it is a twofold concept. It We have this role of affect. Eduardo Mendieta, he's a philosophy professor, specializing in political philosophy and critical race theory at the University of Stony Brook. He basically makes the argument that, we have this role of affect, which in definition pertains to feelings and emotions. He basically asserts and argues that the U.S. Supreme Court, U.S. judges, when they make ruling decisions, those past decisions emotionally educate in how we are to see others and how we are to treat others or respect others. So in a way, what the law, how we see people is what the law has made them out to be, and that is clearly the simplicity of it, that our minds are legally conditioned at a phenomenological and subconscious level, that we think in those terms. The law, we see others as the law has made them out to be, as I have stated before. And furthermore, as I go into my research, I find that immigration law, as you may know, or as you may have seen in articles or following government or politics at all, our immigration law is by all means not perfect. It is deeply flawed, and I have found that the U.S. government's treatment of undocumented immigrants, that they totally dismiss international human rights. They violate key terms of international law in that terms, and I believe if reform is not made, it's only mirroring this undoing language, and I found in a report, when the government was rounding up a multitude of undocumented immigrants, that in 2006, this was in Georgia, a fellow by the name of David Robinson, he quoted and said that they may not have American rights, but they sure goddamn have human rights, and quote, we shouldn't treat them like animals, as he says. So that's the way that he puts it. But thing about it is, lastly in this video, I am going to discuss, is there hope out there for America? When I speak of this language game, I particularly I am speaking to the view of the 20th century philosopher Wittgenstein. He basically holds that language is a game. each community has one and determines their meaning within their language game and the uses in which they define themselves. And considering this in light of that, he also says that, you know, the limits of my language is the limits of my knowledge. So my thoughts are constrained by the framework of the knowledge that I know. So considering that, there is hope for America. America must restructure their language game, and where they have a deeper understanding, and this can be achieved by a bettering education of undocumented immigrants and their role and an integral role they play in our society. And only then can progress be made towards this issue, and we can begin stepping in the doorway of progress in the right direction. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any comments, leave them down in the comment section, and peace.